Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on, to better explain what's going on, and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. This video is a news conference video from Polk County Sheriff's Office down in Florida. He's talking about the arrest of a person who is charged with murder. It's not a officer-involved shooting video like most of the other videos I've done, but this sheriff talks about things that play into why there's so many officer-involved shootings, in my opinion. Obviously, not every single officer-involved shooting occurs because of some of these things going on, but the vast majority of them do. And the vast majority of self-defense shootings tie back into this kind of central theme that he talks about. Basically, the theme is criminals, violent criminals, being given too many multiple chances and just little slaps on the wrist, and they're not being detained like they should be, and that's further putting the public in harm's way. So I'll play this video and I'll pause here and there to kind of expound upon things about what he's talking about, and we'll go from there.
I'm certainly glad that y'all can be with me this morning. We have a case that I think clearly indicates why this gang task force that we just put together with all of the police departments, Roger Handberg, our U.S. Attorney, Brian Haas, our State Attorney, who is just simply the very best, our Ashley Moody, our Attorney General, and ATF, FBI, FDLE. If this doesn't illustrate why we need to do what we're doing with this task force, I don't think anything does. Because as we said then, and I'm going to repeat often today, we're not going to allow kids to shoot kids, or kids to be shot, or people to be shot by kids. We're just not going to do that. Everyone is God's children, whether they are behaving or not, and they have a right to be safe. I'm going to introduce you to a victim. As you know, Marsy's Law doesn't allow us to give victims' names unless there is an agreement. Well, the victim's mother wants us to use his name and to even talk about his history.
All right, so a couple things. Gang Task Force and Marsy's Law. So, unfortunately, I believe it was Chicago, where the liberals up there basically forced Chicago police to kind of disband their gang task force because it affected mostly people of color, and so it was viewed as something racist. Obviously, you can see how well that has fucking worked out in Chicago, because it is like murder capital USA. I think gang task forces are a good thing, because the gangs are the problem. They are the ones who are driving that murder rate. When you look at a state and you see that the murder rate is X number, whatever, the majority of those murders are coming from the criminals. The day-to-day criminals, the ones who live that criminal lifestyle. Now, you may have some domestic violence type murders thrown in there, where a spouse kills their spouse. There may be road rage type of scenarios where a person dies by the hands of a stranger, where they don't really engage in that criminal lifestyle, but the majority of it comes from these individuals who live the street life. Some of them are 100% without a doubt, quote unquote, gang members. Now, when you look at them and you really break down their group, are they really a true gang like you would find out somewhere in Los Angeles or Chicago? Some of them, no. They're just little pissant groups of people that call themselves a gang. If you put them in a territory like Los Angeles or Chicago, they get their shit pushed in and they'd be holding on to the pockets of the real gang members. But in their area where they're from, yeah, they're gang members. You know, they're rough and tough, right? But only in their little area. So having a group to combat them makes sense. Unfortunately, law enforcement is so short-staffed all across the nation. It's difficult for some places to do this, and it's also difficult for some places to do this when they're under such liberal control, like Chicago. They had some type of database in Chicago, I want to say, that they used to track gang members and all this stuff, and they either forced them to get rid of that or just stop using it. I can't remember the details of it, but those are some of the roadblocks for these agencies in creating these groups. You noticed, or you may have noticed, that he mentioned the U.S. Attorney Office. So at your state level, you have your state attorney. The U.S. Attorney is the federal U.S. Attorney. They charge people on a federal level. What some people don't know is these local law enforcement offices are partnering with federal offices, and they are going after some of these street criminals at the federal level. The local agencies are going to forfeit their right. I won't say their right, but they're going to forfeit their ability to arrest these people themselves and charge them, because they know that their state level judges and their state level court system is so fucked that the people will get out the next day, the same day. The federal system is a little bit different. They're a little bit more harsh, and it's kind of surprising in a way that it is like that, since we have such a liberal ass president in office, and of course, you know, the president is head of the federal government. But there's all these different laws and processes in place that is hard for that person to circumvent everything. And so when a person is tried and convicted in the federal court, they are sentenced to a certain time frame, and that's that time frame they do. There is no like probation with federal courts, not like the states does. So when they target these high level gang members who are real true menaces to society, they let the feds take that person on. The feds build their case, they take them to federal court, and then they get put away for a pretty good long, decent time. Whereas if they were in the state system, they wouldn't be doing a whole lot of time. They'd probably be getting some sweet plea deals, etc. And that's really sad that in some of our states here in the U.S., these cities are having to resort to that. So I don't know fully what laws and things are in place that make it so much better in the federal court. But whatever's going on needs to be replicated into the state level. Like, there needs to be laws in place that prohibit judges from being able to do certain things. We need better laws to keep violent offenders locked up for longer periods of time. It was just yesterday or the day before that I read, and at time of recording right now, it is March 9th, 2023. A few days ago, I had seen something about the D.C. police chief. Washington, D.C. police chief said that something to the effect that the answer to stopping the rampant crimes is locking up violent offenders. keeping them locked up. It's like, wow, what a fucking concept. Whoa, that's a new one. Keep violent offenders locked up. Damn, why didn't anybody fucking think of this any sooner? It's like, wow. Holy shit, fucking light bulb moment, right? So many people in this country share that same thought. But for a fucking police chief to come out and finally say that, it's like, where the fuck have you been, dude? So this whole hug a thug bullshit, this fucking give him a million chances bullshit, it's not working. It's not working at all. It's time to lock away violent offenders for very, very long periods of time. It is time for justice reform. Get hard on crime. All right, Marcy's Law. So I'm not the biggest fan of Marcy's Law, and one of those things that's in Marcy Law is, you can't mention a victim's name. I think that goes totally against the merit of open records law. I do believe that it is a inherent right to the public to know basically all the facts in a criminal case, as long as it's a closed case. It's not under investigation, and anything that could be released in an open investigation could harm that investigation. I get that. I agree with that. If it's an open investigation, it should be tight-lipped until that case is closed, and then everything should be viewable. I hope that Marcy's Law is challenged in a court somewhere, and that it is struck down. But it just has to go through that process, and who knows when that will happen. All right, moving on.
Because she is so passionate about trying to stop this from occurring to any other mother's child. The victim's John McGee. He's 33 years of age. Now, he is an adult by every sense of the word, but he's still...
All right. This terminology of saying kid and child when describing these people involved in crimes. A child is a human being who has not reached puberty yet. Are there some real deal child criminals out there? Unfortunately, yes. But in comparison to adolescents, teenagers, the number is smaller. So when you say an 18, 19-year-old person is a child, that is a huge, huge mislabeling, a misidentification. They're not a child. A child is someone who has not yet reached puberty. So I really wish that some of this wording and terminology would be more accurately reflected for the people involved. Like this victim, 33-year-old, called him a child. No, he's not a fucking child. He's an adult male. Damn near middle-aged adult male. The perpetrator in this case is an adult. but the word kid is used too loosely with that. I think we need to be careful with our terminology so that we don't paint this picture that they're just some little fucking snot-nosed little kid. Because when you say kid, everyone thinks of a little person. Some of these teenagers, they're not fucking little. They are adult-sized people. Grown man fucking stature. But they've only been around the sun 15 or 16 times. But they got the body of a person who's been around the sun 25 times or 30 times. Calling them a kid is totally inaccurate.
Still his mama's baby. He's still her child. She admits readily that he has misbehaved throughout life and that he has conducted himself in a manner that she does not approve of. And she's told him that. He's known as Bang Bang. That should give you an idea of who our victim is.
Bang Bang.
And he's a known gang member. I want you to understand that he was released from prison on October the 8th. October the 8th, he was released from prison where he did 4 or 5 years. He's a troublemaker, make no mistake about it, but he shouldn't have died. But on December the 17th,
All right. So he did 4 or 5 years in prison. I guarantee you, I'll put money on this. $100 fucking dollars. I'll put money on this. That dude could have been serving a longer sentence. Could have. And he said that this guy's a known gang member. He's been a troublemaker all his life. So that tells me that this dude has probably done so much shit in his life as far as crime that whatever crime it was that put him in prison, he could have had a very long sentence. It probably could have been like 12 years that his ass could have been locked up, but he only did 4 or 5 years. And that is a recurring thing all across this nation. Had they given this dude a max sentence, guess what? He wouldn't have got out and got killed by this other person.
Just more than 2 months after he was released from prison, he was shot in the back. He was shot. He was on Pirates Way, and that's in Secret Cove off of Skyview. And here's what we know. When he was originally shot, went to the hospital, he was expected to recover. We started the investigation. And as the investigation went on, 24 days later, he died in the hospital. Now, some of you may say, well, what kind of hospital care was that? They were giving him the best hospital care. But as he started to get better, he refused to take the medicine that they said he had to have in order for his body to heal. Now, during this period of time, we're talking with him because we're trying to determine who shot him. He would not cooperate. What little bit he said, he lied to us, and he lied to us, and then he refused to take his medicine. So we're up at the hospital now, not only as detectives, but trying to say, hey, dude, you have got to take your medicine. He was going to get well and go back and seek revenge on his own against this other opposing gang member. That's right. What we believe is he wanted to take care of it himself. He didn't want that gang member locked up, because if he was locked up, he couldn't get to him. So he begins to decline over this 24 days. And the sicker he got, the more he refused the medicine, the more we talked to him. He took to his death the person that shot him. but he shouldn't have.
That actually happens more than what you think. Most criminals are snitches. They really are. They are some fucking Tweety Bird singing motherfuckers, man. They will read a fucking book of shit for self-preservance. But there are some who are true to that ideology of snitches get stitches, and they won't say a damn thing. And there have been quite a few people who refuse to say anything about who shot them, and they died, and no one knows who did it. There are some strong beliefs for some of these cases on who did it, but the victim never said anything. And of course, witnesses and everything, which he goes into. He talks some about witnesses later. I'll wait till we get to that point to say any more about witnesses. But yeah, there are some people out there, some criminals out there who will follow that ideological street code to a T, and they won't say a damn thing. But the vast majority of them, they do snitch. They really do. They some fucking singing motherfuckers, man. They will talk your head off, and they'll tell you shit they did in fucking 4th grade if they think it's going to get them out of trouble.
Been shot. Why was he shot? Well, it was an opposing gang member. I call it a testosterone overload. He was mean mugging. He was bad-eyeing the other gang members. And as a result, the event occurred. Well, who shot him? Interesting.
All right, mean mugging. So, when it comes to self-defense, being situationally aware, and protecting yourself from predators, eye contact may need to be used. So when you think about predators, how they select their victims, one, they got to scout, right? They got to look at all the different people walking around and see which one is going to be the best victim. So when you think about like lions out in the plain, like they're hunched down in the grass and they're watching the fucking gazelles, right? There's multiple of them to choose from. But they're watching for the ones who are not paying attention. Humans do this too. They watch for the ones who are not paying attention. Once they've selected that person, they'll focus on them. They'll look around, see if no one's going to notice them. They start to stalk, make that approach, and then they pounce. Just like you see in a fucking wildlife documentary. You see the fucking lion hunched down, kind of low crawling towards its prey, gets close, and then bam, it pounces. And that prey had his back to the lion and was drinking from the river or whatever. Got caught slipping. So when you're out in public and you're situationally aware and you're looking around, you may see someone who is also looking around. And one of the things I recommend is make eye contact with that person to let them know that you see them. But don't hold that contact for too long, because that could trigger a response out of them. They could take that as a threat, as a challenge. Oh, you mean mugging me? Then they could switch from wanting to, just rob you. Now they want to fucking show you up. Like, no, you ain't gonna stare at me, motherfucker. So when you initiate that eye contact, it needs to be brief, But it doesn't need to be so brief that you appear to be timid, like you look away really quick because you're scared of them. So it's kind of it's a fine balancing act of making eye contact with people to assert that you know they're there and that you're not afraid of them, but also not hold it too long and make it seem as though you're challenging them. The only reason why people stare at each other is either they want to fuck or they want to fight. That's what it boils down to. So you have to be careful with how long you hold eye contact with people.
Enough, I'm going to spend a few minutes on this because this illustrates the problem. This is Ladarian Chandler. Ladarian is 19 years of age. He's a self-proclaimed rapper, and he shot John McGee in the back as he ran away.
Anybody that I've ever come across who had this wacky ass hairstyle has been a fucking douchebag. I cannot recall anyone I've ever come across having hair like this as being a nice person.
And then he made a rap video about it. Now, first off, come on, man. You shoot someone else in the back? What kind of coward is that?
All right. So, there's been multiple times in other videos where people have been shot in the back, and I've said I have no problem with it whatsoever. There are acceptable times when a person could be shot in the back. And so I don't really like this stance that he's taking that, you know, you're a coward if you shoot someone in the back. I don't believe in that at all. Like I said, there are some circumstances where it is totally acceptable to shoot a person in the back. For example, an active shooter scenario in a school. Would the school resource officer be a fucking coward if they came around the corner, saw the active shooter in the hallway shooting at kids, and their back was turned to the school resource officer, and that school resource officer just started firing into their back? Would that make that school resource officer a coward? Hell fucking no, it would not. Now, I don't know about Polk County's officer-involved shootings. I'm sure I may have done a video once before, maybe, on them. I don't know. I can't recall. But they may have had an instance where one of their officers may have popped someone in the back. I have no idea. Or in the future, they may come across a scenario where an officer pops somebody in the back. And his words of shooting people in the back makes him a coward. This is a soundbite. The media can end up using that. How embarrassing that's going to look if one of his deputies gets in an officer-involved shooting, has to end up shooting somebody in the back, and now they play this clip of him saying shooting people in the back makes you a coward. It don't. Now, in this context, this guy, is he a coward? Oh, yeah, he's a coward. I mean, he's a little street thug, little shithead. They're all little cowards. They won't fucking go toe-to-toe with you. They are like fucking hyenas. They really are. They're just little scavenger, little fucking predators. They're ambush predators, and they won't. There's nothing honorable about these street thugs. They will not face you one-on-one. They will cower. They'll wait till you're not looking to bash you over the head with something. They won't go hand to hand with you. They pull a weapon out. They won't go one-on-one. They'll get their buddies to come beat your ass down. They'll gang up on you. So yeah, in this context, this dude straight up is a fucking coward. But just making this blanket statement that shooting people in the back makes you a coward is wrong.
But that's exactly what he did. So before I go further, other than to tell you there was an argument in the street, he shot him in the back, let me tell you about Ladarian Chandler. He was on juvenile probation even though he was 19 years old. He previously had 7 felony arrests, 5 misdemeanor arrests, everything from resisting to theft to vehicle theft. He was just a mess.
You're damn right. So he is an adult male, 19 years old, on juvenile probation. On probation for things he did before he was 18 years old, before he legally became an adult. Arrested multiple times. I think he said 7 felonies and 5 misdemeanors. That is something that the majority of the public does not fully understand. They do not know how the juvenile system works in most states. The juvenile system is a joke. It is. It is a system with laws and policies and regulations from the courts to the correction side of it that is built in a way that is worded and intended to be used for little children who commit actual crimes. Like 10-year-olds going out and shoplifting, or maybe stealing a car. Stuff like that. It is not set up for these teenage gangbangers. The juvenile system works off this mindset that juveniles are not fully developed mentally and are incapable of fully understanding what they've done and that what they've done is wrong, etc. And is to give them least restrictive sanctions. So a 10-year-old who, let's say, bust open a window at their school and then crawls in through the window and starts spray painting the walls in the school, or takes a hammer and bashes in computer screens, whatever, for fun. The juvenile system response to that is they don't go to detention. They don't get put in a jail cell. Instead, they get sent back to their parents, and they go through a process with the court system where they may be sanctioned to go to counseling for X amount of time. They have to possibly do some small things to make up for what they did, like maybe some workbooks that they have to complete, some type of coursework they have to complete, maybe community service hours, kind of doubtful on that. And they complete these things, go through some counseling, and they get a pretrial diversion. And then they're done. They never see the inside of a detention center. In Kentucky, I can tell you that juveniles get 3 free pretrial diversions automatically for misdemeanors. 3 of them. Doesn't matter what the fuck they do. If it's a misdemeanor, they get an automatic pretrial diversion up to 3 times. and they get 1 felony pretrial diversion, so long as it's not a capital offense like a murder. Gangbangers like this little dude arrested he has 7 felonies and 5 misdemeanors. Obviously, this graduated response of dealing with things does not work for him. And it does not work for millions of other little fuckheads like him. Because the system is in no way set up to deal with these type of criminal offenders. So there needs to be reform in the juvenile justice system. There needs to be laws enacted and policies and regulations enacted that treat these type of offenders different than what the original laws were meant to deal with. He is a product of the failed system. Had processes and laws been put in place to deal with people like him, it stands a chance that he would not have gone down this path. But because the system's broken and is completely incapable of doing anything with offenders like this, the state of Florida, in my opinion, is responsible for that other person's death. Here in Kentucky, the murder rate in Louisville, Kentucky is directly responsible from the side of the juvenile courts and the Department of Juvenile Justice. They are totally responsible for the majority of the murder rate in Louisville, Kentucky and Lexington, Kentucky. People like this become empowered and emboldened to do what they do because they don't see any real consequences. They get little slaps on the wrist. They get told that they're the victim. They're the victim because they were raised in a traumatic environment. They have PTSD. So this hug-a-thug bullshit does not work. It's never going to work.
But here's a picture of him. I want you to see this picture. This is when he was 18 years of age. And this was after he was released from a high-risk facility where he spent 1 year in jail. But let's go back. When was his first arrest? When he was 11. Then he was arrested when he was 13, 14, 15, and 15, and 17. The Department of Juvenile Justice, who I often say has a difficult time telling a child the difference in a child committing childish acts that are criminal and a hardcore criminal as a juvenile. This was a hardcore criminal as a juvenile, but to DJJ's credit, they had him in detention, incarcerated on 3 different occasions. The first time for 1 month, that didn't do any good. The second time for 2 months, that didn't do any good. The third time for 12 months. That didn't do any good. This photograph was taken within a day or 2 or a week after he was released from his 3rd stint in lockup. He never learned. Not only that, 32 days later, after this photo, that's when he shot John McGee. 32 days later. Did I mention that this bad-looking dude And he was bad and mean in the streets when he had a gun, because he would point it, he would threaten, he would shoot. This is only the times we know about. We don't know about the drive-bys and the shootings that never got reported to us, because a lot of times they don't talk. Most times they don't talk. We don't know about all of those times. But what we know is, despite the juvenile justice system effort to the contrary, this is what he looked like the week after he was released, and 32 days later he shoots John McGee, who subsequently dies. Now, let me give you some background. We're doing our investigation. We find out that he has made this rap video. I got to tell you what, he's not much of a rapper. My rapper expert tells me he doesn't sing well, he doesn't move well, you know, he's just a terrible rapper. But he's a stupid rapper because, you know, he not only makes him a rap video about shooting somebody, he admits shooting the guy in the back. I'm a coward rapper. That's what I am. If you don't believe me, watch me shoot the guy in the back. What is that all about? I got lots of stuff I could talk about that. But, you know, my rapper expert is one of my detectives who loves rap music, and he's into it, and he self-proclaimed, kind of like the rapper, that this was one of the worst rappers he's ever listened to in his entire life. So we investigate further, and nobody in the neighborhood knows anything. You go to one of these scenes, you know, there's 200 people in the parking lot, and you talk to them all, and they all just got out of the bathroom. I was in the bathroom when that happened. You know, 200 people in 20 bathrooms. It's crowded, but that's where they are. But we started making arrests. And as we started making arrests, we even arrested a mama along the way. As we started arresting people, when we got mama arrested, when we started back in there for another wave of arrests, they went, we'll talk to you. So people started loosening up. My homicide detectives are simply the very best, and they started to give us information. Now, follow me here. This shooting occurred on, December 17th. He dies about a month later. It takes us 2.5 months to build the criminal case. But just after, while we're doing this, he pulls a gun on another guy.
So this is something else that kind of plays into why some of these criminals remain on the street. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And so when no one comes forward to talk, when no one's cooperative, there's not a whole lot of investigative leads to go off of. There are countless murders out there that the police, they know who did it. They just can't prove it. There's no evidence.
Secret Cove, Pirate's Way, the same street, just a little ways over. Fortunately for us, because we didn't have a case, wasn't even real sure, because there were several people around, who the trigger man was at that point. Fortunately, he didn't kill that guy. But patrol arrested him for that case and put him in jail. So he was easy for us to find when we wanted to serve the first-degree murder warrants on him. When we served the first-degree murder warrants on him, he wanted to be bad. I'm a bad man. He is, and he's legitimately bad when he's got a gun. But I'm a bad man. I'm not talking to you. I'm not cooperating. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you're bluffing me. You know, you ain't charging me with nothing. You don't have anything. Well, when we laid that first-degree murder warrant on him, subsequent to that, he started crying like a baby that lost his pacifier. And ostensibly his gun was his pacifier. He bragged that he carried a gun all the time and he would shoot his rivals. Now, he didn't call them rivals, but you'll have to listen to the video and add your own words because we've blanked out some inappropriate words that he used. But now he's charged with first-degree murder. So I ask you this. He had to be cool. He had to make his rap videos. He sent this out for other kids to see. And that's what's happening in this rap world today. That's why we have these drive-by shootings. That's why we have these kids ganging up in their individual gangs. Then they don't talk to us because they're going to go back and revenge the conduct themselves. While this shooting's taking place, and we're dealing with this, and there's a shooting in Lakeland where 11 are shot, and we're dealing with one in Lake Wells, where a 12 and a 14-year-old and a 19-year-old girls are shot in two different houses asleep in the middle of the night, and one gangster shoots and kills another gangster in Poinciana. You go, my gosh, what's the matter here? Despite that, our crime's at a 51-year low. Despite that, our violent crime went down last year. So what I'm saying is this does not represent the overall crime picture. This represents a very violent, dangerous group, small group of gangsters that are shooting at each other, and they're young. So look at this kid. He's 19. He's going to prison for the rest of his life. And I want all you cool dudes to think about this. While you're watching your gangster rap and you're looking for a stolen gun and you're shooting at your buddies and your buddy's house and your buddy's car, when you're shooting, this guy thought he was going to be you or you're going to be him, and now he's going to prison for the rest of his life upon conviction. Plus his other aggravated assault charge in possession of a firearm by a convicted juvenile. He's not even supposed to have a gun at all. So he wants this to be the image. And truly, folks, you understand why people would not testify against him in court. You understand why witnesses didn't want to come forward, because he carried a gun and he would shoot you and cared less. We've not recovered the firearm for the shooting. We like to tell folks, hey, we'll pay $500 for a felon with a firearm. Call Crime Stoppers, 1-800-226-TIPS. But we want the gun. We want the gun that's being pushed around. We know it's being pushed around. We want the gun that killed John McGee. Now, you're going, hey, how likely am I to give you the gun? I'm a convicted felon. Because that's who I'm sure has the gun. Well, it's easy. You call Crime Stoppers. And we will arrange a way to get the gun so that you don't get involved and you make $5,000 for the murder gun. That's right. I'll pay $5,000 for the murder gun. And I don't care who the gangster is holding it or who the mama is holding it. Get it out of the attic. Get it out from under the tree. Get it out from under the bed. Get your $5,000. All we want is to put our hands on the gun. and we'll take it from there. No questions asked. You don't have to get involved. And any other gangsters, felons with guns, you call in, we take them off. In our first week of operation with the gang task force, we got 4 guns off the street. 2 of them are in the computer as stolen. I know the other 2 are stolen. We're just having to trace them from their origin because people didn't have the serial number when it was reported to us. But
when agencies actually do release information that the firearms were stolen, I wish they would expound upon how these guns were stolen. It's highly, highly unlikely. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's highly unlikely that they were stolen off of the person who was wearing the damn gun. What is more likely is that the guns were left in a car, like the unlocked glove box or the unlockable center console, and the gun was stolen from there. Either someone came along, smashed the window, did a smash and grab, or they were so inattentive that they left their doors unlocked. And all someone had to do was come along, try some door handles on some cars, came across this car that had the gun in it, unlocked, got in there, opened up the unlocked glove box and the unlockable center console, found the gun, and skedaddled. That's how a lot of stolen guns end up on the streets. Or they break into someone's house and the gun is in an open area. It's either sitting on the nightstand, sitting on coffee table, it's in a easily found place like sitting on the top shelf of the closet, it's inside the drawer of a nightstand, inside the drawer of a coffee table, in between the mattresses of the bed, in a sock drawer, whatever. It's completely, or if it's in the terms of a long gun, it's sitting behind the bedroom door, it's sitting inside the closet, on the top shelf of the closet. These guns are accessible and operable to unauthorized people. Why are people leaving their guns like that? Because of bullshit anti-gun laws, such as gun-free zones. And these people are law-abiding people, good people, right? Good people follow rules. And so their place of employment may be a gun-free zone. By law, it's a gun-free zone, or their employer just says you can't carry guns while you're at work. So these people follow the rules, and what do? They leave their guns behind. They don't take it to work with them. They either leave it at home, or they take it with them in the car. They get to work, and they leave it in the car, and they go into work. So with that being said, 2 things I think need to happen. 1, we need to get rid of gun-free zones. They don't work anyway. What fucking active killer has ever looked at a gun-free zone sign and said, shit, I can't kill anybody here. Damn it. Not a single fucking one. So get rid of gun-free zones and make it unlawful for businesses to prohibit people from carrying self-defense tools. There is no reason why a place like Walmart should have the power to tell any of its employees they can't carry a gun. No reason why any employer like Cracker Barrel should ever have the legal ability to tell an employee they cannot have a concealed gun on them. That should not exist. So get rid of these anti-gun things and enact safe storage laws. If your gun is not on you, it needs to be locked up. There's no reason to leave your gun sitting on the nightstand at home. And then you leave home and you're gone from home for 8, 10, 12 hours out of the day and that gun's sitting there. Anyone's able to kick in your door, come in, find that gun, and leave with it. Leave it in your car, in a unlockable center console, or in a glove box that may not have a lock on it. And if it does have a lock on it, you don't lock it. That's wrong. Should not be doing that. It's too easy for someone to break into your car and steal it. It's too easy for you to forget to lock your fucking car and someone just open the damn door and get in there and steal the gun. So we should have safe storage laws that punish people who carelessly leave their guns laying around. Someone who leaves their gun laying around unattended, to me, is no different than a person who leaves something like hydrocodone pills laying around on a coffee table outside the container when there's a little toddler in the house. That toddler's not going to know the difference between hydrocodone pills and fucking Pez candy or any other kind of candy. They're going to think it's candy and fucking eat it and then OD. It's negligent and it's careless.
Let the message be loud and clear. And all you gangbangers and gangsters and cool dudes and dudettes, understand. We ripped this rapper and he's in the jail. We unwrapped him from coolness and wrapped him up in a jail cell. And I don't know how you put that in the rap video, but if you do, send me a copy. And then verse 2, you're next, dude. You're next. Because we're not going to let you kill people, and we're not going to let people kill you, because we care about your life. That's a guarantee. So with that, let's look at the rap song, and we'll make this available to you. But you can see him.
Nigga tried to run, I ate his back. Glock shoot like a map. Third ass in, nigga knowing where to find me at.
Guns. All guns. Play that again.
Nigga tried to run, I ate his back. Glock shoot like a map. Third ass in, nigga knowing where to find me at.
Bragging about it. Any questions?
So the evidence you have against Chandler, from this news release, is the fact that there's parts of that rap video that weren't publicly known?
That's part of the video. At the time he made that video, only the shooter would have known he shot the guy in the back. And we have lots of other evidence that we're not revealing here today.
And then another question, just it strikes me that the victim had a mother who cared about him, didn't want him in that life anymore, and we have this 19-year-old kid who's young. How does the gang task force try to get young people, young kids, not to go into this?
Listen,
life?
that's a bunch of hooey. That soft and cuddly feeling, we're going to hug a thug, and if we give them, another popsicle and an icy and a day out at the park, they're going to be good. Y'all need to wake up. These dudes are taking y'all for fools. Mm-hmm. These are hardcore gangsters, gangbangers. They'll eat your ice cream on Saturday and shoot up the rivals on Saturday night and smile at you in the meantime. So at the end of the day, it all starts with parenting at home when they're young and keeping them away from this lifestyle. But when we're having these neighborhood events for these 15, 16, 17-year-old hardcore gangbangers, they're smiling at you in the daytime and going up and dressing like this at night. He was still on probation. He did a shooting after the curfew was over. How much good did that do? They're not this kind of person. I'm not talking about everybody. This kind of person is paying no attention because they want to be cool, they want to be rappers, they want to be a power player in their community. So I tell everyone, you got the little bitty dudes and dudettes at 4 and 5 and 6, don't let them watch his crap because that appears to be cool. It's not cool.
I want to hear your thoughts on DJJ reform. You know, last week we were talking.
So the what he talked about, the young ones, not letting them watch the rap videos and watch all that crap. That culture is destructive. When I see videos of little tiny kids who are barely in kindergarten or around kindergarten age, and there's rap music playing and they're fucking dancing to it or, you know, whatever, the only thing I can see for that child's future is wearing an orange jumpsuit or a striped jumpsuit, whatever, something issued to them by a jail or a prison. There's nothing positive about the rap music and rap hip-hop culture. It's all self-destructive. It's all negative.
About Orange County, several people shot and killed. One of those a news reporter, and the conversation came up of needed change in that area. This seems to tie in as well.
Well, first and foremost, you know, DJJ is an easy target, okay? So everybody piles on DJJ, and I've piled on them too, because you have this wave of people. And I call this wave of people of community, I call them do-gooders because they really mean well, their heart's in the right place, and they just think if we hug them closer, that's going to make everything better and all this will go away. Well, if that were so, because we are hugging these people, this kid got the full measure of the system. We also have the ability to put them in adult system. But when you look at all of his crimes, they weren't all gun crimes. They were theft and grand theft and fleeing and not your greater level stuff. But he was a scary guy on the street. But as I've said before, what we have to do is we have to be very forgiving of children committing acts that are of a criminal nature. Those are the ones that need the diversions and the counselings and the families reinforced. I'm not saying that does not work. But when they cross that border, then they have to be detained. If this guy is not locked up, he's shooting somebody. And that's what I'm talking about. So DJJ many times allows these very violent kids or very outlandish, out of control criminal kids. They don't all have to be violent crimes. They don't sometimes tell the difference between a child doing a childish act that's criminal and a hardcore criminal who happens to be under the age of 18. This was a hardcore criminal.
That's exactly the point I was making earlier.
Under the age of 18. But if you look, Our state attorney is great about filing adult charges, but he just meandered through the system and never got above what should have been controllable. And the system with him detained him for 1 month, and then 2 months, and then 1 year. What would have happened if we'd had started out with a year program and then went to another year program and then went to another year program? You see, he might not have been out to commit this crime, because you can still be held under juvenile sanctions up until the age of 24. But now he gets out at 18. He does not have a high school education. He has no proclivity to work, because he's just going to do rap videos and sell dope on a street corner and run with the dudes and be cool. And now he's facing the rest of his life. Now
So another part to the failing of the system, which I said, it's the courts and corrections, and this is a part of corrections. But it plays a big hand in why these little fuckers continue to do their stupid shit, is probation and parole, which falls under corrections. There are some probation and parole officers out there who they do not need to be working at all in probation and parole. They're too timid. They're too soft-hearted. They don't do what they're supposed to do when monitoring these people on probation. And these people on probation continue their lifestyle. The process to revoke a person's probation can be a tricky thing. There's a lot of offenders out there, they violate their probation, they get a second chance on that. It's like, oh, you pissed hot on your test. Well, we'll give you another chance. Oh, you got arrested for this. Okay, well, we'll give you another chance. There should be no more second chances. Being on probation is that fucking second chance. So whoever was in charge of watching him on probation failed, in my opinion, at doing their job. I guarantee you this dude was doing shit that he was not supposed to be doing, and had there been a more switched on probation and parole officer monitoring them, they would have popped him and put him back in detention. But it didn't happen.
Go back sociologically and say, well, how was he, what environment did he have when he was 2 and 3 and he was 4 and he was 10 and he was 12? And I'm not saying that doesn't need to happen to try to stop it in advance. I'm not against that. But when he got to this level, he ain't eating no more ice cream with y'all. I'm just telling you. He's not eating any more ice cream with you. But he's still a 19-year-old kid that now has taken a life. And that's why Mrs. McGee, or John McGee's mama, allowed us to use his name. She said, I don't want any more mamas to lose their children. And I'm appreciative of her. And I'm sorry for her. I'm sorry for this kid's mama. But she's thuggish too, if this is, or either the friend's mama's thuggish, I forget which one of them. But when you raise your kid, or don't raise your kid, the streets will raise your kid. But it'll be violent. You sure don't want to meet this kid. And they said he had a bad temper. He's got a bad temper. He's got a gun. He's 19 years old. And he'll shoot. And he says he'll shoot in his rap videos. And he tells the people in the neighborhood he'll shoot. Now, he's not the only one out there. That's why we got this gang task force. Is it a large population of people? Not yet, and we're not going to let it get that way. But the reality of it is, this guy should not be in a position to have to be in jail for the rest of his life. But I guarantee you this, you let him out, he's going to get him a gun the next week and take pictures of himself and post it while he's on probation. Then he's going to go out after curfew. Anything else? I think I've clearly communicated the problem here. And I hope to the gangsters I've clearly communicated our answer. So if you're smart, you go get you some ice cream on Saturday when they want to give you ice cream, and you won't thug up and start shooting people Saturday night. Thank you very much.
All right. So this judge, why I keep calling him judge? This sheriff, Grady Judd, I like him. He tells it how it is. Like, he don't hold back. He's not a ride the fence kind of politician. He's a sheriff, so he's a politician. All sheriffs are elected positions. You got many sheriffs out there that are politicians, and they'll ride the fucking fence. They're a bunch of fair-weathered motherfuckers who don't want to say anything to offend anybody, and they don't take a hard stance on things. Not this guy. This guy tells it how it is. He speaks the truth. Everything he said was legit. Everything he said was valid, had 100% truth to it. He's not making shit up. He's not painting some bullcrap propaganda or anything like that. He's telling it how it is. We need more sheriffs like him. We need more chief law enforcement officers like him. This is why I also believe that all chief law enforcement officer positions should be elected positions. So here recently, like I said, time of recording right now is March 9th. Yesterday there was a news article that came out about a bill being pushed here in Kentucky that would make it legal for people to carry concealed at universities. So right now there's basically a general prohibition on people being able to carry concealed weapons on campuses or universities, post-secondary education places. The chief of police at the Western Kentucky University went and testified against this bill. Now, this is a guy who has been described as a gun guy. He has, I don't want to say partnered up, but he has last year done a thing with our local gun club, having a gun competition to raise money for some law enforcement group, like a memorial or foundation or something like that. I can't remember what it's for. Seemingly a pro-Second Amendment person, pro-gun person. And then now he's going up and testifying against this bill. And I don't know if these are his true beliefs or if the president of the university is saying, hey, you need to go up there and talk against this because it could be bad for us. And him being a employee, where do you think he stands on that? You think he's going to say, no, I'm not doing that. That's stupid. Because he could find himself without a job. So there's plenty of chiefs, and I don't know if that's what's going on or not. I don't know if he's being forced into this because the president of the university is telling him to go up there, or if these are his true beliefs. I don't know. But there are police chief positions out there where they are heavily influenced by the mayor, the city council. And they're afraid to go against those higher positions because they know that they can be fired by the mayor, fired by the city council. So in a lot of places, the chief of police is the fucking puppet of the mayor. They won't buck the system. They won't go against the mayor or the city council or nothing. Because they don't want to lose their place at the table. They don't want to lose that cushy salary, that nice take-home vehicle, and have to potentially go back to the road. If they were an elected position, they wouldn't have to fear that. It would be the people who would decide that the next election term they're not going to be in office. He's not the only sheriff that tells it how it is. There's plenty of other sheriffs out there who, do what's right, but I think he's kind of the more popular one. And that is why I firmly believe that all chief law enforcement officer positions need to be elected. Every city police chief needs to be an elected position. Otherwise, they can just easily become a puppet of the mayor or the city council. And never be able to take a hard stance on something. Alright, enough blabbing. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.